send a letter to the county administrator and to the county commissioners requesting some answers.
Okay, I appreciate that. I also just, in general, I think their response only wanting a 2-year lease, I think, quite frankly, is pretty telling to what their long-term plan is. So we'll just...
Yeah, again, I had no information as to any change in the plan. The only indication that I would have in the change is that it looks like they're looking short-term, not long-term.
Right.
What that means, I'm not sure.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So I guess one last time, any other questions or comments to move this forward in extending a short-term lease until we can get some answers along the lines of how we want to make the decision to proceed once we have some of those answers from the county? Okay, we will see that on... Yes?
I'm sorry. I've been sitting here scratching my head. What are we trying to preserve? We obviously need a lease, but if we're already convinced that they're stuck on 2 years, my experience is a short-term lease demands a quite higher rate than a long-term lease. What are we trying to preserve in this 3-month period? Do we think we've got some goodwill that we're trying to help preserve in the negotiating period? If not, why not come up with a more market rate for a 3-month lease?
I wouldn't be opposed to that either. I mean, that's at the discretion of this council to make a recommendation to change what the recommendation is. I'm completely okay with that.
Can I make that a question, Mr. Schomer?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Rob, but I mean, I'm all for extending as gracious a hand as we can if we're headed someplace that's very productive for us long term. If we already know they're short term, I'm all for us doing what's best for the people of Huber Heights.
Agreed wholeheartedly, and I think that the gap there is not understanding why. Are they looking at? We'd like to find out some questions as to why the change in the short-term approach. Is it because they want to come back and reevaluate the site and they have no intentions of moving operations, or are they reevaluating their entire process? And I think by engaging them with, we need to know this before we negotiate some form of instrument, we'll have those answers. And I think that there's value to that. If it is truly that they're on a short-term plan, I couldn't agree more in the fact that anybody knows that a long-term lease, you're going to get a better deal than what you would in a short-term.
Sure. And I may have made a dangerous assumption. I mean, just saying that if a 2-year lease is what they're looking for, and I made the statement, I think we know what they're I'm looking at 2 years as clearly short-term. Maybe that's a dangerous assumption on my part, but I didn't mean to maybe lead you to believe that is what their plan is, because I don't know. That was an assumption.
Right, we don't know. Correct.
One positive way, obviously, to motivate a decision on their part is to be a little more aggressive. But I'm just going to stop there. I don't want to. You've got the ball, but I think, council, we need to be prepping ourselves for that discussion and potential reality.
Is there a? Do we have time? So if this doesn't appear at the council meeting, do we have time for another work session to do that lease, at least to give us some more time here initially to think through this before we enter into any kind of a extension?
I believe I'll double check the current agreement and make sure what the date would be, but I believe we would have the September meetings to be able to do that.
Yeah, there's a meeting the Tuesday after Labor Day.
Okay.
Next council work session.
So in essence, yes, and we can work on trying to get some more information. But
any objection to leaving this off of the next council meeting and just pushing this back to one more work session to see if we can get some other information regarding this?
If I do find in this the other signed agreement, which I don't have readily at hand, that
there's something changes.
If we're back to August, if it's August instead of the end of September, I'll make sure to note that in an email on the packet information that we do need to make a decision. But
perfect. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure it's the end of September.
Okay, so we will, at this point, unless there's further notice from the city manager, we will move this to the next work session rather than the next council meeting.
All right, so there was the discussion on August the 20th. Now, to my knowledge, this has not been discussed since, other than this last executive session, right? They came back and said, we're going to do a extension to the end of the year. That's what they told us. So a couple things on this. So we don't really know. We're hearing from the city that it's the county's fault. We're hearing from the one person, as far as I'm concerned, that I've heard from, one person from the county who's saying it's the city's fault, the negotiator from the city. So, what exactly, that was a great question. What exactly are we trying to get out of this? As a citizen, and hopefully all those folks understand that they work for the citizens, but as a citizen, we're trying to get the court to stay here. Why we don't know, as citizens, what the county's plan is very telling. Is their plan? Now, the judge said their plan is to stay here. That Trotwood is in favor of us staying here. That they would help it. Have a court in Trotwood, have a court in Huber. It would work out for everyone. So if what the judge said was correct, I think we can get something done with the county. Now, are we trying to get more? Because I heard something about if it's a short-term lease, we got to bring it up to the market rate or more of a market rate. Basically, essentially, raising the rent. Why would you raise the rent on the county when it's providing a service to your citizens? Why? Are you just enthralled with business acumen that you want to negotiate this deal in such a way where you feel like you received a win for the city and the stat? No, come on, guys. Get the court here. Now, I'm not saying lose money. If you can get a little more money, great. Get the court here. What my suggestion would be, and, you know, I'm just a layman, guys. I do a podcast driving down the road, so don't take my word for it. But what I would want to see is that, yes, extend it through the end. Somebody got honked at over here. Yes, extend it through the end of the year, while also, if they only want to go for 2 years, that'll give you a little more time to keep it here. Don't try to send them down the road because they only want to do 2 years. I think there's more negotiation that can happen. So, this is why I am very interested in seeing this discussed at the next council meeting, Monday. I'm going to try and go just so I can hear what the discussion is. Now, I think this is important to all of us, and I hope it's important to you. So, in my way, I really wasn't brought up to speed or really wasn't interested in this topic until I went to that Republican meeting. So getting involved and staying involved, you will learn things about the city that you're not being told. Now, you can agree with me or you can disagree with me, but I know one thing. Both sides of that coin, I know if you agree with me, you're going to want to learn more and you're going to want to get involved. If you disagree with me, you're going to want to learn more in order to prove me wrong. Somewhere down the line, right? All right, folks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading. Have a great day. I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to Truman's Town Hall. Share this podcast with your friends and neighbors and subscribe today.